who were your main mentors
Okay,
in music?
now, my father, of course, was the first one. And he was very important because he was a good musician. The Epstein boys were four brothers. Chai, the first one, we used to call Chai. His nickname was Chiswick. It's really Yitzchak. Chiswick. His English name was Isidore. Then there was Willie, who played the trumpet. He was a good trumpet player, Willie. Very nice trumpet player. And Julie, who played the drums. But the king of that family was the oldest brother, Max. Max Epstein was originally a violinist. He still played well even into his older years. Then he took up the clarinet and sax. And when he took up the clarinet, he became one of the pioneers, one of the highest, most sought-after Jewish-style clarinet players. And boy, Maxie, I'll tell you, we went to Europe in 1992. My wife was with me. She said to Maxie, you know, I've heard a lot of the other players, but now I understand what people are talking about. He really got a kick out of that. He the fact that this is this is the Ezuk the Nemes. You know what I mean? And he was. Now Maxie, I met Maxie a little bit later, but Chai, I had a wonderful time with Chai. I really did. And I learned a heck of a lot from these guys. And they introduced me to some other players, of course, Dave, and some of the accordion and pianists. He had a guy called Walter Cam. He looked like a bulldog, a face like that, but boy, could he play. He sounded like my father. As soon as I heard that, I said, that's for me. He played very, very well. And also there was a guy he became one of the biggest leaders in the field of Hasidic music. His name was Rudy Tepel. Rudy's real name was Harry, but they called him Rudy. Why Rudy? Because in the early years when people were taking up the saxophone, there was a guy who was a kind of a vaudeville star. His name was Rudy Wiedoft. And Rudy Valley got his nickname from there because, hey, everybody who plays the saxophone, they call Rudy. So Rudy Tepel was the only Rudy that I knew that had come from that thing. And he also played with a big sound that sounded like a truck starting up. Of a big, wide vibrato. They wanted me to learn how to play like that. I actually had to. It took some doing. But Rudy played clarinet also. Hey, but he played clarinet with a saxophone sound. So it sounded like with that vibrato. See, the real Klezmer guys played with some vibrato, but not like that. But I learned from Rudy a whole repertoire of Hasidic stuff. And the Hasidic became a big deal because they came over here after World War II. These were the survivors. And they became an industry. A lot of those weddings that the Hasidim had were on weeknights. So you could make a full-time living in music. Not just the weekend jobs, which were the American and that kind of stuff, but by playing the Hasidic, you could also make a nice buck on the weekdays. And I became one of the busiest guys in that line. So I learned that from these people. And the Epstein boys were my major leaders in the Hasidic field in the late 1960s. I also learned, I played with a bunch of younger guys. And when I came home, I remember telling my wife, you know, it's like going back to junior high school because these guys played like kids. I knew some of these songs, but there was two different Hasidic repertoires. There was one which the young kids were making up their own songs, and there were one which were the old European things. So now I had to learn that stuff too. So some of the other mentors that I had, well, Max Epstein certainly was the most important. And then I got to meet little Sidney Beckerman. Sidney Beckerman's father was a real klezmer. Before Dave Terrace came to this country, he was one of the top guys. And Sidney, everybody considered kind of a weak. He didn't really play great or anything. I got news. He had a little style of his own, which was very nice. And he taught me about 50 freilas, 50 old-style Bulgars I learned from Sidney. And I wrote them down. And there was the basis I have a large repertoire book in which I have a bunch of Hasidic things. I have a bunch of these freilas and Bulgars, and I have Yiddish theater stuff, and I have freilas and Bulgars uh, from Naftula, from Dave Terrace, from Maxie, and from a couple of and from Sydney. And Sydney had these Bulgars that his father used to play. Now there was another saxophone player, clarinet and saxophone player called Howie Leese, who was really a major talent. He could fake harmony like nobody could. And sitting next to him, I picked up all kinds of ideas on what to do with that. And I got a chance to play with some rather good jazz players and all of these Jewish guys. Rudy Tepple had a trumpet player, a young fellow who was not that much older than me, called Marty Bass, who played just lovely. The right way to play Jewish trumpet, Marty was it. And listening to them, okay, this is the way you phrase this music. And you don't go a lot of notes. Maxie said to me, you know, kid, you play good clarinet, very good. But you have to understand one thing. The dreidlach, meaning the ornaments, are there to enhance the melody, not the other way around. Well, you know me, I was a bebop guy. And, you know, bebop guys play a lot of notes. And from that I learned, no, that's not the way to do it. In other words, if you lose the melody, it's a dead issue. Put those little curls and those little extra, what we call the dreidlach, you know, that kind of thing is what these people taught me. And I was lucky that I had the opportunity to do it, because here I was, at that time, a young fellow in my mid to late 20s. These guys were already 60 or whatever. They were teaching me gratis. I didn't have to go to them for lessons. They were right there. I was learning it on the job. Then when I became a keyboard player, it became even better, because I got a chance to play with a lot more of these guys. A lot of the keyboard players we had were not that good. I think I was considered one of the best ones at the time. I became Dave's regular keyboard player. I was his last one, his last regular keyboard player. So I was playing jobs with Dave. I was playing with the Epstein boys. I was playing with Rudy. I was playing a lot of Jewish jobs. And I did consider myself fortunate enough to be playing with these people. I always had a feeling for history. I liked old cars. I could tell the year of all the old cars, 33 Buick 32. I knew the difference in style. I knew the difference in sound from the bands I heard and all that, from the old recordings and things. And imagine being able to play with, like, Louis Armstrong, you know. Well, Dave Terrace was Louis Armstrong. He was a pioneer. And I got a chance to play with these guys. You listen to a guy like Maxie, boy, I'm telling you. Yiddish and Tom. And being that they approved of me, and they liked me, they thought that I was talented. Can't go wrong with that. Can't beat it, I'll tell you something, because I really worked at it. It was something that I was motivated. Even though it was old music, I liked it. I really, you know, every dance music has got its own kind of swing. The Irish, the bluegrass, well, the Jewish had its own kind of swing. I got to play with some of those old drummers. Benny Zucker or Irving Gratz, Willie Coleman. I got to play with some of these real old-time drummers. Man, that was a kick. Well, the old Dixieland drummers used to play like that, too. Dixieland drummers used to play like that. So it's like being in the middle of an old-time record. It's a tremendous feeling. I still play once in a while with bands that we play swing-style stuff from the late 30s. And it sounds like an old band. It's supposed to.